It's been another full year, and yet there's no coverage. There is no announcement. There is no hype. There is no enthusiasm for the Switch 2. Ooh. Not only has Nintendo not unveiled their new piece of hardware, people can't even really get away with their clickbaity nonsense anymore. Gone are the days where people were saying that the Switch would be succeeded by a new piece of hardware in like 2018. Like these days, people look at like new Switch rumors and they just laugh at them because they're so ridiculous, they're so unbelievable, they're so obviously fake that no one can really take them seriously. And I've been saying this for a long time that the Nintendo clickbait YouTube community is one of the absolute biggest dumpster fires in history, right? These guys obsessively talk everything that they can that they think they can use against Nintendo, right? Like, oh, the Switch is underpowered. Oh, the sales are going down. Oh, this game flopped. Or, oh, I'm not excited for this product. Like, oh, Nintendo Music. Oh, like Alarmo. Like, it's never ending with these people to the point where their complaints about like arbitrary things that Nintendo does, about in regards to stuff like Nintendo Music and Alarmo, those overshadow their coverage of actual games. And this has always been my very real criticism with people who hype up the Steam Deck, who hype up the new Nintendo consoles. Like, how exactly does other hardware existing stop the Switch from being successful? How exactly does the Steam Deck existing make the Switch obsolete? Now, the PC gamer will try to tell you it's because of emulation, it's because it's a more powerful piece of hardware, it's because it's just a better machine in general, but it just isn't, as we all know. So, when you actually look at what these people are doing, the narratives, the downplaying of all these great Nintendo games, stuff like Echoes of Wisdom, the upcoming Mario and Luigi Brothership, the everything else I've done this year, Princess Peach Showtime, like you can see that in spite of the narrative this time last year, right, people like Arlo putting out videos like, oh, the Switch 2 is coming out in 2024. There's nothing coming out on Switch in the foreseeable future, right? In spite of that, in spite of all of those videos, insisting that nothing was coming out on Switch, the console was dead in the water, it wasn't going to go anywhere, the reality is that Switch has continued dominating the console space, right? Even with third parties throwing all of their weight behind PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, refusing to port Monster Hunter Wilds on Nintendo consoles, doing everything in their power to avoid, Black Ops. Call of Duty has never seen a Switch release, if that tells you anything. Like when GTA 6 is coming out on it, like when you see like the insane lengths that third parties are going to not support the Nintendo hardware in general, like you really start to see just how what all this is amounting to, really, right? All of these people, all these journos, all of these developers are desperately trying to gaslight you into thinking Baldur's Gate 3 or Elden Ring or Astro Bot or Dragon Age Veilguard are like these huge masterpiece, like AAA releases, when in reality they're just complete nothing burgers that honestly can't even remain relevant for more than a couple of weeks, right? Especially in the case of Astrobot. But when you look at just the sheer decline of relevancy of Baldur's Gate 3 and Dragon Age, you can see just how these games cannot compete with Nintendo, right? I recently read a statement that saying that the entire Dragon Age franchise has sold like 11 million units, right? Now, keep in mind, like when Inquisition came out, like companies were trying to imply that this game was some massive success, that it was like performing on the level of Skyrim, that like Inquisition alone sold that much, but in reality, that wasn't the case at all. And now they're trying to do the same thing for Veilguard, but that is just blowing up in its face, right? It's not going anywhere. Nobody believes it. Nobody respects it, right? Even if Veilguard did sell well, people would still call the game crap. And I do think this is the big issue that these people are having, is that nobody trusts reviewers anymore, and nobody trusts sales numbers anymore, right? Like it's gotten to the point where companies have to rely on this really arbitrary thing, right? The Steam player count in order to like justify certain games like being hyped up over others, right? Never mind the fact that like plenty of other more popular Nintendo games exist than the most popular played games on Steam, but again, like they won't bring that up. They deliberately try and undermine that. They deliberately try and imply that Steam is like the center of all gaming when in reality that's not even really close to being true. With things the way they are now, right? Nintendo is set to dominate the entire gaming space, like even outside of their own hardware, right? They're putting out great new iOS games. Switch is remaining dominant. They are going to put out a new piece of hardware eventually, but it doesn't have to be soon or even in the near future, right? It doesn't have to be in like 2022 or whatever people thought was going to happen, right? The Switch is a defining example as to what makes Nintendo's business model work. Something that like PlayStation and Xbox could never wrap their head around. Valve can't even produce their own hardware without like epically falling flat on their face, right? Like Nintendo is not only keeping the Switch very relevant and very successful, they are branching out into other successful pieces of technology. Stuff like Alarmo and stuff like Nintendo Music. This is going to be huge for the company, right? No longer will you be able to cope and seethe about like console sales going down when there are other avenues for income, right? In 2026, like if the Switch is still on the market, and I'm sure it will be, uh, if the new piece of Nintendo hardware is not out in 2026, what are you going to do? Like try and cry about how Nintendo doesn't have anything coming out when the Mario movie's coming out that year, when the Zelda movie's probably going to come out the year after that, right? No, is the Zelda movie coming out in 2025? Oh, I completely forgot. Well, anyway, like um, you know, you have Nintendo movies, that alone, Nintendo Pictures, right? You have like all of this stuff that exists outside of gaming. Like the days of like pretending Nintendo was a declining company because of like this hardware not selling as much as this piece of hardware this week, they're over, right? You will not be able to gaslight people into thinking that in the future. What you're seeing now with like the Switch 2 thing, it's the end of an era, right? It really is the last time that you can doom post about Nintendo in regards to their performance of their hardware, because not only are they so entrenched in the sphere that like nobody can possibly compete with them, they're also expanding outside of it and very successfully. Everybody's trying to like ignore the elephant in the room. Everyone's still trying to like claim Elden Ring is some relevant like huge masterpiece when not only did Breath of the Wild outperform it, it also got a sequel, which is almost as successful, right? Actually, it outsold it in the same time frame, but um, like you have like sequels, you have like this huge array of like the Nintendo network, right? We are at this point now where a single game will not be able to subvert the Nintendo empire. Right. This isn't like 2001 where people would scream at you like, well, sure, Nintendo has Super Smash Bros. Melee, Super Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, Pikmin, Wind Waker, all these great games. Sure, Nintendo has all that. But the PS2, oh, it has Grand Theft Auto 3. Like that's the game that everyone cares about. Like you won't be able to do that in the future, right? Like in the future, you're gonna get laughed at for that. Because not only is are Nintendo products better than that crap, uh, like GTA is not the new exciting thing anymore. It's old, it's tired, it's played out. It is a stereotype of everything wrong with gamer culture, right? Same with Call of Duty. But like the big tentpole pillar franchises of the PlayStation and Xbox brand, they are collapsing, right? We are going to see, I think, in the next within the next two Grand Theft Auto releases, I think, probably as early as Grand Theft Auto 6, we are going to see people start to notice that the quality of these franchises is declining. And that has been true since like Grand Theft Auto 4, but I don't think you're going to be able to write it off like you have in the past, where you just where people try to say that like, well, at least it's better than what Nintendo does. It's when Nintendo is like reaching new and new heights, they have all these different audiences. Like Grand Theft Auto just appeals to little kids who want to kill cops. Okay, like it has no depth to it. It has no substance. The driving sucks. The gunplay sucks. The writing sucks. Like there's nothing good about Grand Theft Auto. And although Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be successful and people are going to simp for it just because it's Grand Theft Auto, there is going to be this prevailing thought among a significant portion of like serious gamers. You know, anybody who plays more than Grand Theft Auto, there is going to be a slow and sure realization among the public that Nintendo is better. That is what we're going to see, right? These big AAA franchises, these alternative pieces of hardware, they are not going to be able to downplay Nintendo products in 2026, right? They cannot keep putting out new Grand Theft Auto games and expect people to keep eating them up forever. People are going to get bored of them. And when that happens, those people are all going to come to Nintendo hardware, the only viable competitive thing on the market.